Welcome everyone. My name is Ellen Yeong, and you are currently watching an artist interview with Troc Talks Space. Wherever you are, thank you for joining us. I would like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are all currently located. Troc Talks Space acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of Woonwurrung and Wurundjeri peoples, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and through them to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. As part of our sixth Troc Talks Online, Scotty So has generously joined us for the artist interview to share insights into his practice, previous projects, and his upcoming exhibition at Trocadero Art Space called I Will Keep You in the Loop, Warm Regards, from the 15th of July with safe measurements put in place in response to COVID-19 situation. Born and raised in Hong Kong, So is an artist interested in the uncertainties of reality and its relation to space and perception expressed through found objects. He works across mediums using painting, photography, 3D printing, site-responsive installation, video, and performance to provoke humour and irony on the construct of world making. Please welcome Scotty So.
Hi,
Scotty.
Ellen.
It's lovely to have you here. How have you been?
I'm good. How are you? I also would like to acknowledge that I'm living and making art on the unceded land of the Aboriginal people, and this is their land, always was and always will be. Am I frozen?
Yeah, you are frozen.
Oh, sorry, I'm in New York right now, and I think there's some network problem with the time difference, and just kidding. Hi.
Hello, it's really lovely to finally have you here. Are we all okay now?
Yep, I am back to Melbourne.
Right. It's our pleasure to have you here as our sixth Troc Talks Online artist interview, Scotty. So, I've heard that you have been at home isolation alone for the past 2 months after the COVID-19 lockdown. How is your experience of isolation so far in Australia, and where have you been self-isolating?
I've been self-isolating at my home down in the south, just by myself, living in the apartment. It's been really lonely, and like coming from Hong Kong, where a place is so dense and high population, but then suddenly moved here, and then now being alone by myself for 2 months, like it's really so intense. Like in my life, I always have people around me, but having that no one talking, that 2 months having no one to talk to except my tradie who came to fix my roof, like it was really crazy experience. Even me and the tradie guy had this bond because we were the only people that has been having conversation. And so when he left during the isolation, finishing the job and left, I felt very sad.
So I believe accessing your art studio has been very difficult during the time of home isolation. And how have you been managing with your art practice during the COVID-19 situation?
Well, I used to have the first month I try to do something at home, and I've been ordering sewing machine, ordering ceramic tools and materials, and I ordered some fabric from China. So it's kind of like I plan to have some project that I can continue doing at home. I learned how to sew, and I learned how to do porcelain through just watching YouTube channels. At first, I thought it was going to be quite a great experience just to build some skills during the time that I couldn't do anything at all. But later on, I realized that I became really sick. My lung was not feeling well. I thought I was having the COVID-19 because there's pain when I breathe. Then I realized that because I went to get the testing of COVID-19, and it
Yeah.
came out negative. And so I went to the doctor to check with other things, because I thought, oh, if it's not COVID-19, then it has to be lung cancer or HIV. Um, Went to get all the testing done, and I was all negative, and so, which was so strange. And then I realized that I was just having vitamin D deficiency. Because I'm Asian, I've got tan skin, that the sunlight doesn't give me enough vitamin D, and I've been isolating at home for the past 2 months. Um, and that just leads to a lot of the muscle pain, dizziness. That then I realized that as much as we have all this free time or time that we don't know what to do, it's so important to really listen to your body and understand what your health, mental health, physical health needs.
So, thanks for sharing that experience with us. Then how has your art practice evolved during the COVID-19 situation?
Well, like I said, when I started doing doing more of the learning new skills, and I've even evolved to making more objects with ceramic now. And I think that's just the expands on media than rather than like much of the concept development, because it's kind of just being in this space the whole time, with just body training on skills, then rather than really reading much or having artist conversation with others.
So I'm really fascinated by this persona identity called Scarlett So which I've been also kind of seeing a lot of posts and photographs and new works visible online through social media. And it seems like Scarlett often appears also in your previous digital and performance works. And there's even an Instagram account for Scarlett. The bio says, your Asian stepmom. Who is Scarlett?
Would you like to meet her?
Yes, please.
Well, hold on. Let me just tell her to come out. Where is she? Hold on. She may need a bit of time to come out, but let's just wait for
Sure.
Pardon me. Okay. Oh, there she is.
Hello.
Do you
Hi,
see her?
Scarlett. Yes, I do.
She is saying hi to you. So Scarlett So Johansson is a persona that I found within me from 3 to 4 years ago when I was in Hong Kong. I've always wanted to do drag after watching RuPaul's Drag Race season 6. And through drag, I realized that I could, oh, she's leaving now. Bye.
Hi, Scarlett.
Look at that ass. So through drag, I always then realized that I could do something that, because I've always have the passion on the Asian aesthetic and also the Orientalism in women beauty. For example, the Chansam, the really symbolic image of a 60s Chinese housewife, or the Shanghainese singers back in the 40s Shanghai, with their beautiful Chansam and also their beautiful silhouette. It's all a lot of it is inspired by my Hong Kong grandmother, who she was born in the 20s to 30s in Canton. And she used to wear cheongsam a lot. And I saw her old pictures and couldn't stop imagining how it could have been so beautiful if the war didn't come, because she then flee to Hong Kong. But also there's a lot of movies reference to that sort of silhouette, like In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. But all these I've had this, because I always wanted to have my friends who dress up like that. I always wanting to do, 60 party, let's have big hair and wear the cheongsam. But none of them really willing to go far or really dive into that aesthetic. So I then decided that if I can be dressing like a woman, then I really want to chase for that image. And so there's a lot of appropriations on the woman image in Asia back in the day. Then I started clinging on that identity a lot. And nowadays I started meeting men dressing as Scarlett and feeling that, because the cheongsam really hugs your body and makes you really sensual, like the other woman, you know. And it's kind of relating to that identity of Madame Butterfly, Miss Saigon, in the world of Susie Wong. A lot of that kind of Asian woman with a tragic story with a foreign man. And so now it's become like almost like an identity, part of my identity.
Mm-hmm. So, and I've also seen you, there were works called Wikipedia series, often involving Scarlett, in a lot of images on Wikipedia pages, actually online. And how did you come to work on these series?
Well, it was beginning with Carrie Lam, the Hong Kong chief executive, who started the extraditional law in Hong Kong last year and created a huge protest in Hong Kong. And then Hong Kong people realized there's really serious problem with the police system. Carrie Lam has always been like an image of tough woman. She always wants to show people how tough she is. She's always says that she used to be number one on class all the time. And so I wanted to dress up as her, cry or show emotion in the press conference that she actually cares about Hong Kong people. Not that she is now, but then to almost imagine an alternate world that she does care. If you don't know who she is, that's her. And so I thought, well, if I took a picture of myself as her, crying in the press conference, why don't I, post it on Wikipedia? And then I posted it on Wikipedia. There. It got took down in 2 days because I guess people, like, I don't really look like her. Maybe I'm too pretty to look like her. But it got took down. But then I reverse imaged the image just to see if anyone on the internet also used that pictures. Because once you uploaded something on Wikipedia, it got archived onto their archives. And it was just stay there forever as long as the Wikipedia archive is still alive. And so anyone can still access to these pictures, even though it got taken down from Wikipedia. Then a friend of mine one day sent me this article on Facebook, saying that he saw my image on a news column in Italy. And I just thought, I just couldn't believe it in the beginning, because, like, why would someone use that? And then I realized that it was just the article writer didn't know that that's not her. But because it's all the image that uploads on Wikipedia would be free for use. And so they just took my image instead of paying some actual photographer who took these images.
Mm.
And then I started to realize that if I continue making different images of different women of me in drag in different style as a historical correct image, and if people can't tell if it's real or not, then I am able to question its authenticity and also the authority of the Wikipedia, of what power do the editor has on Wikipedia to remove different images just because they think it's not real. I did a few other images. For example, this one with the of me dressing as a Manchurian woman, and also this one dressing as a Han woman in the late Qing dynasty. This picture got used by this is me there. So I took a picture of myself, Photoshop it, hand colored it, Photoshop it onto the real image, and then put it on Wikipedia. And it's still there, this one, nowadays, still now. And it got used by a scholar in Hong Kong to talk about, as an example, to talk about breast binding in the late Qing dynasty. And there's another picture of me as a burlesque performer that I put on a page of the Asian fetish page of Wikipedia. It got taken down maybe in 2 weeks. And the reason it got taken down was because the editor of the Wikipedia, anyone can be the editor actually, and someone who look at the picture and reverse it, search, and found my drag Instagram, and then realized saying that this is a cosplay, this is not historical accurate. Then it got taken down, but still nowadays, when I went back to look at the picture, you can see that Australia government taken my copyright away because the Australian government thought that this image was taken before the 1955.
How do
Because
you then feel about this situation, because you're the author of this image as an artist?
At first I just thought, oh, how dare them taking away my rights. But I was the one who uploaded this image and also claimed that it was taken before, taken in the 1930s. If I am to tell them this was not taken in the 1930s, then it would not be a real image from the 1930s. But because now they thought it was an actual image from the 1930s and taken its copyrights and have it for freedom of use, I think it enhanced the realism of the image. That now it is actually taken back in the 1930s. It's got the support of I think it's kind of like a support by the authority of the Australian government.
So with all these other organizations and the media using your image for their articles, it's just really interesting how they don't realize that it has been not fabricated but made by an artist, by you and Scarlett, without realizing. And it's really interesting to see the medium of these series as digital interventions instead of digital image. What does it mean to intervene with the information that is online?
I think to do that, it challenged the truth, the only truth of the information we get on internet. Because I have been working on the idea of truth, the singular truth and the multiple truths, which I see that project as a way to intervene it and challenge the authorities of pages like Wikipedia or even articles that is written by scholars, um, to question how real are the things that we have been reading online is actually correct. When I can just intervene these images and almost like changing the past of the history.
Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting how you explore the digital intervention with Scarlett in drag and photography in your practice, and you're also interested in the uncertainty of reality, space, and perception. In your own world, what are the uncertainties of reality, and how do you explore the idea, for instance, Scarlett, in physical spaces like in a gallery space?
I see that uncertainty of identity, uncertainty of reality in just on the representation of all sort of ready known perception. For example, objects and behavior or even identity, these are all uncertain to me. I like to, so I started the idea from the world of the ways of world making, a book by Nelson Goodman. And in his book is he talks about how different ways to construct the worlds, for example, as in the worlds in movies or the world in storytellings, but even worlds as in I see it as the realities or the truths. By altering different truths, by constructing this different truth from other truths. And for example, like my drag persona, I constructed her identity through using other people's identity and appearance or the concept of their existence, their stories, then constructing that identity of mine, and therefore she becomes that beauty of ideals from the past. Other example that I do is kind of, for example, this lamp. This is a lamp that I found in a construction site. It's actually a real street light. But by changing the interior of it into a turf grass, the light is, because you only have the street lamp turned on during nighttime, but then having that light representing the light shooting down to a park, for example, that street light now illuminating the daytime and the nighttime in the same object. And that's how I see a lot of ready-made objects can be played, or found objects can be played in reconstructing and deconstructing, but also how we have perception to these objects or the form of these objects or the appearance of these objects. And by playing them, you get to have the two, almost like a multi-identity on these objects. For example, I have this vase that I made during the isolation, a beautiful Ming Dynasty Qinghua vase. But it's also I casted this whole thing with a giant butt plug that I bought during the isolation. You can see that it comes down, but then, so it can be a butt plug, but in the same time, it can be a vase. And so that's how I see the uncertainty in different objects that you can put different truths into one. You can see different truths in one picture. And so with the drag persona, with the physical space, sometimes I don't need to actually dress up and do the performance, but I use advertising tools like holograms device or hologram film, which usually use on window displays um, or different technology fair to promote stuffs. But by using this technology that is mainly for advertisement, I put my track performance on these devices, giving like a ghost appearance of this Scarlett identity of mine on this hologram. Um, I see it almost like repurposing the tools of that device, but also a way to fetishize that identity of mine by putting a feminine body onto a technology device. And these are all kind of I then that I got the idea or appropriated the idea from sci-fi movies like Ghost in the Shell, because or Blade Runner, because a lot of this movie they somehow always put a Asian geisha or like an Asian woman dancing like exotically on a hologram of a building. And so I kind of link this together, alter the use of the objects, then to play the physical body on a non-physical form of the video in the scary space. And so I see that as like a way of playing different realities together in one form.
So, Scotty, how did you become interested in exploring the uncertainties of reality, space, and perception?
Um, I always feel that there's different way to feel one concept or one event. Like for example, the current situation with different politics in the world right now, and I found that often people keen to be either very far left or far right, but they aren't willing to just to see the other side or see the other point of view just to understand a bigger picture. Because, for example, a lot of people that I know from art school that has the hatred to capitalism. But to me, I was born and grew up in Hong Kong, the most capitalist city in the world, knowing that capitalism can create revenue for art and also increase the sales and buying in artwork, and therefore funding a lot of ideas and art experiments in the art industry. So to me, I don't think one thing is always extreme or evil or all good. But we always have to see things with different angles. And so I always have that idea in me and thinking that looking at objects and different people's identity or even my identities, I don't see things as so certain. For example, me, I am presenting as a boy right now, as a man. My pronoun now is him. But when I'm in drag, my pronoun is she and her. Um, there's that uncertain to me in even the spectrum of identity. I'm gay or queer or Asian, Chinese, Hong Kongese, Thai. Um, I always found it fascinating to be able to shift around different point of view. Um, and so I started doing more research on this question of identity, question of reality, and and I found that Western philosophy often has really similar ideas with the Chinese philosophy too, like the Decal. Is it Decal? Who talks about Rene Decal talks about the reality of dreams, and I think therefore I am. But in the Chinese literature, there's also the Zhangzi, who talks about him dreaming as a butterfly. But is he dreaming as a butterfly, or is he a butterfly dreaming as Zhangzi? Um, so I always found it fascinating with these identity or these reality changing, shifting.
So if in case the parallel universe exists, in your opinion, what would another you in the parallel universe be doing, and what would they be?
I can bring him out too. Do you want to see him?
Yes, please.
Hi. Here's another parallel me here. He's probably not in isolation that I would imagine. That could be a parallel universe that we could be in. Um, but I think it would just probably slightly different, but still the same. Just like the Kylie Minogue's music video comes into my world when she continued doing a lip of walking, but multiply herself each time, and each of her changed slightly in her action. I see that as a emphasizing on the truth of her.
And I'm really excited about how this your interest with the uncertainties of reality, perception, and space will be presented in your upcoming exhibition called "I Will Keep You in the Loop." Warm regards. That will be open on the 15th of July. And how will you explore this idea of reality, space, and perception? And in the original proposal, you said that you're interested in setting up the space as a basic office space and have a professionally taken a large-scale image of real estate on the wall. How did you come up with this idea? And was it based on the previous works that you have made?
The original idea was to building a basic boring office space, which relates to a work that I've done during my final year in art school, that I did a installation of a office space with office carpet, office chair, drinking fountain, desk, but having them changing and alter just by sort of querying that working environment. Because I've always found having a white cube gallery space, building something so boring and just a lame 90s looking office space would be such a waste of time and money. And I really wanted to do that. I just think it would be so silly. But then I realized that Trocadero used to be a office space in the 70s, I think, or 80s, which then really makes me feel that I need to make it into an office space by kind of reclaiming that space through the past, bringing that past identity back to that space. Because the space is always there, but its function has been changing. And I think it was like a theater back in the day, then it became a disco, and then an office space, then the Trocadero Gallery. By introducing that workable environment, the basic office space, which gives I think its form, its appearance. When you look at the carpet, when you look at the chair, you immediately think of that boring corporate environment that you're there, sit that sitting on that chair 9 to 5. I'm really fascinating with that concept, the perception we have, or I have, on these form of external appearance of the office space. Because they are all, everything that I plan to put in there are all gonna be functional. And the original idea that I was going to actually take really good photograph, like Airbnb or some realistic images, to make this space look big and nice, and put it on a hot desk website to rent it out during the whole exhibition duration. And hopefully someone would come in and actually use the space. By repurposing that art space from the gallery back to its original purpose, I think it could be a very fun way of exploring the use of space and objects in art content.
And during the COVID-19 lockdown, you developed your original proposal by adding a security camera that films the site, and you proposed to stream the footage by Zoom meeting on a screen in the exhibiting space. How did you come to think about adding a security camera and streaming the footage? Has this decision been impacted by the COVID-19 situation?
Well, first, during the isolation, I didn't really think too much of the exhibition actually. But one night I was having these virtual drinks with some friends I have who are still studying at the uni, and they have been doing Zoom meeting every week with their lecturer and classmates just to continue doing the virtual study. I didn't use Zoom until then because this has always been news in Hong Kong saying that Zoom is extremely risky for information leaking. That because the company was owned by a Chinese company, and there has been news saying that they leak information to the Chinese government. There has been news saying that there were churches that's holding mass for its underground churches that got found out that got the footage leaked by Zoom to the Chinese government. Then therefore they got all arrested, or the Chinese government shut down Zoom meeting for people who were doing like a memorial meeting for the Tiananmen Square massacre. And they deleted and blocked the accounts of these people. And so I was always scared of using Zoom. But then after being on it with my friends, I thought, but I may as well put myself in the shithole and play with it. Because I found that there's this function called virtual background, which is pretty fun to play with, that I have previously shown you. For example, I'm right now in the office space. And I thought that having Zoom has become this new tool, this new office of a lot of us. As much as it is so risky and there's information leaking possibility, but people are still using Zoom. And I thought instead of using the actual office, then I should respond to the situation by having it as a home office, a virtual office. And I also found out that if you put the actual background, the real background of yours as the virtual background, you create this really interesting effect that your body is having the glitch, but then the background is still the same. And so I wanted to do that with the original proposal by having the virtual background, by having the office space still set up, but then having the camera on the security camera on the ceiling, hopefully I would buy it from Xiaomi, another Chinese brand. I'm recording the whole space live stream through to a screen on with Zoom, but still using the same image or video as the virtual background. So hopefully the audience comes in, they will see themselves, their body glitching on the screen, but they can only see it through the screen. And to me, I think like this virtual experience that I have been having with my friends, doing Zoom drinking, doing Zoom meeting with galleries and friends like with you, it always has this feeling that I am doing this experience in reality, but also in an alternate reality, that the experience, our exchange is real, but it's on a experience that is so bizarre compared to how we had actual meeting back in the day. So I want to resonate to that experience we have during the isolation now with home office and virtual meeting, to put it on the exhibition, just to see how that would go.
And why is the audience interaction so important in the exhibition space turn into an office space? And how does this then relate back to the uncertainty of reality, space, and perception?
I think with the audience experience, the work doesn't activate until the audience body is in the footage of the camera and able to see themselves through the image to the digital information, then onto the screen again. They have to see themselves on the screen to be able to allow this work to activate. Just like how we have these gallery space or even office space right now, that people are still not back in this space for work. And now this space has been just empty and no one's been using it, no one's is in there. And to me, I think this space had a void, that it isn't functioning yet. It isn't activated yet until a human's body is into this space. And therefore, I think the human's interaction is very important to be able, because when the footage and the virtual background is exactly the same on the screen, it would just be a still image, but it only takes an audience to be there to start the glitch. And so I think the audience, the human's body is very important for this work.
So Scotty, do you have any words for the audience who are watching this now and who are interested in visiting your exhibition in July and August?
I would only have one thing to say. I will keep you in the loop. Warm regards.
Thank you, Scotty. It's been my pleasure to speak with you about your practice and your upcoming exhibition at Troc Art Space.
Me too. I'm really excited about that. I'm really thankful that my show is one of the earliest shows to be reopened again. And hopefully that could allow us just to treasure each other more in reality.
Yes, and I'm excited to see your exhibition in the physical space and also through the footage that will be recorded through the security camera and space. And thank you, Zara Sullivan, for your amazing technical assistance in recording this artist interview. And thank you to all who have joined us for Scotty So's artist interview as our 6th Troc Talks Online. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye.
Hey.